Short take. It's Short Take Saturday, everybody. Hope everyone had a wonderful week. Andrew Hody joining you on this lovely Saturday night. The Big Ten Championship is going on right now. I'm not going to comment too much on college football for this video just because there's so many games yet to be played and we don't know what the final 12 are going to be for the college football playoffs. Obviously, I've made my stance on Ryan Day very, very clear, but I'll just put it very, very short. I'm hoping Oregon still pulls this one out. I really am, because I want Ohio State to be in a worse position so that way Ryan Day could eventually get fired from Ohio State. But that's not if or there right now. Let's get into some other big topics going on. I'll talk more about this on Tuesday during the Raw Takes edition there. We'll have a special guest joining on Tuesday, by the way. Stay tuned for all that on Tuesday's show. The Guardians re-signing Shane Bieber. That is a huge thing. They let Matt Boyd walk. I really didn't talk about that too much on Raw Takes this week, so I'll briefly bring up some baseball here. I know it's the offseason, but offseason moves still happening in a flash. Shane Bieber re-signing with the Guardians is big. That's clearly a move for October. I think the Guardians definitely want to lock down Shane Bieber because when it comes to the postseason, they're going to need to pull out some wins. Obviously, Shane Bieber is probably going to still be down for a good portion of the season too, but if you can get him going by the time October rolls around, and if you look at what he did last year before he got Tommy John surgery, he looked like he was a possible Cy Young candidate based on the way he was pitching, but he only had 2 starts, but he struck out 20 batters in 2 games, so that's pretty damn good. Shane Bieber back as a Guardian. I'm really pumped about it. Got the Guardian hat rolling right now. Great to have Shane Bieber back on the roster. But there's still a lot of work to be done for the Guardians. They have to do even more this offseason than just that, especially because they let Matt Boyd walk. They're going to need another pitching arm. I'm going to say Alex Cobb maybe should be a nice addition, knowing the Guardians, cheaper franchise. Dolan's got to spend some more money here. I'm going to keep putting the pressure on them because, to me, they've been the problem with the Guardians. It's not Chris Antonetti. The man clearly knows what he's doing. Obviously, Terry Francona, now with the Cincinnati Reds. But, you look at what Stephen Vogt did his rookie season as manager with the Cleveland Guardians, and now they're bringing back Shane Bieber with Stephen Vogt as the manager, and probably him getting some solid starts towards the end of the year. I'm really pumped to see what Shane Bieber could do. I think he could absolutely get back to being the Shane Bieber we got to know and love over his career here in Cleveland. I obviously trust the organization. He knows where we're coming from here in Cleveland. I think it's going to be huge. But we need to get another bat in this lineup. We need to get another pitcher in this rotation. I'm not so sure the Guardians are going to be able to spend that much additional money in order to do so. But at least we could go into this offseason saying Austin Hedges wasn't the only additional add-on piece the Guardians needed, because that's all we could say for last year. Nevertheless, the Guardians still went 92-69 and made an ALCS run. But they have to cross over the New York Yankees. And is this going to be a move I think does that? Probably not, but it may win you a game in a series with the Yankees if you end up playing them again. I still think, when you look at the Yankees, is Giancarlo Stanton ever going to have that kind of postseason performance ever again? I don't know. But, we could talk about the New York Yankees another day. They're still probably the top contender in the American League right now. And our division's only getting tougher. Detroit's got, right now, the defending Cy Young winner in Tarek Skubal. He's probably only going to get better with a Detroit team that's very well managed. And you look at Kansas City, I know they just lost Brady Singer to Cincinnati, but they added Jonathan India to the lineup. They still have a really good rotation with Seth Lugo there as well. So, yeah, Shane Bieber getting signed is a huge deal. Definitely a bona fide ace for the Guardians lineup moving forward. Let's move on to some basketball. The Cleveland Cavaliers rolling past the Charlotte Hornets today. As expected, they should have. They're up 40-18. Evan Mobley had a perfect stat line, essentially. 5 from 5 for 3, I believe, in the first quarter, and 23 points in the first quarter alone. Evan Mobley is definitely a superstar. Right now, Donovan Mitchell and him are clearly on the ballot to be all-stars. You can make a case, obviously, for Darius Garland very significantly. He's probably going to be an all-star, too. And you also have to look at a guy like Jarrett Allen as well, and I think the Cavs may end up having those 4 all-stars. But you look at the bench and how the Cavs bench has just been playing lights out with Ty Jerome. You look at guys like Karis LeVert, who's just been coming off the bench and dropping essentially 13 points pretty much per game right now. Karis LeVert has been really solid for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ty Jerome is probably that guy we've really been talking about a lot. Obviously, when Max Strus gets back, that might give the Cavs some more space. We haven't seen Kenny Atkinson work with Max Strus yet either, but clearly coaching seems to be the big factor to what went wrong with the Cavs last year and what is going right this year. Cavs still leading the Eastern Conference right now, and you look at the Western Conference, 2 teams like Golden State starting to slip. Teams like Boston still in the running for the top. Milwaukee's starting to figure things out slowly but surely. Orlando's been on a run. I don't think they've lost at home yet still to this day. So the Cleveland Cavaliers are in prime position right now. And the Charlotte Hornets are just not a great basketball team. It probably has to stink to be a pro sports fan in North Carolina right now with the Panthers being... The Panthers are getting better, actually. I want to give Bryce Young credit. He's looked actually really good the last couple weeks. But, with the Panthers being the Panthers and the Hornets being the Hornets, that's got to stink if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina right now. But having said that, the Cleveland Cavaliers obviously getting a much-needed win. Let's look at the NFL a little bit. Browns-Steelers Part 2 coming up. Jameis Winston, can he keep it up? George Pickens still ruled as questionable as I'm recording this video. I think that's going to be huge. If George Pickens is out of this game, it might actually benefit the Steelers if he doesn't play, because George Pickens just can't keep his mouth shut. I've made numerous videos on Steeler Diva receivers. You already know that. If you know it, I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers, always will. Having said that, though, they've beaten the Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh every year in the regular season since 2003. Only one postseason loss that they had, a postseason loss they had back in 2020 with Baker Mayfield, and Ben Roethlisberger still threw for 501 yards in that game. And, I look back on it, too. Ben Roethlisberger really did have some beef with the Browns, and, I can go on and on about how Ben Roethlisberger is one of my least favorite NFL players all time because he was a Pittsburgh Steeler, and he was 23-3-1 against us or whatever. Whatever. I hate the Steelers and always will. I'll hate them tomorrow even more. I think the Steelers end up winning this game, though, because they are a good football team. The Browns clearly aren't. I think Jameis has some exciting moments. I think we're going to see some exciting football tomorrow. Will be a close game. I'd say probably like in the 24-20 range. But Pittsburgh is clearly the much better football team. They're going somewhere. The Browns aren't. I'm glad we got that snow win. And, hey, if we do sweep the Steelers, that is a success at this point this season, even though this season may end up being a wash. Well, it already is a wash, to be quite honest with you. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers easily roll the Browns tomorrow. Maybe not roll. It'll probably be a tight game. Division games are always like that, but I don't have much confidence. When we're going to Pittsburgh, we know it's pretty much going to be a loss because the Browns just don't win in Pittsburgh. They haven't done it since 2003. Tim Couch was still on the roster the last time the Browns won a game in Pittsburgh by the Three Rivers. So I can't have confidence in that. I'm still rooting for the Browns. Hope they pull it out. I'm just not going to be confident in saying that's going to be a for sure thing. You look at some of the other NFL games going on right now. Obviously, Detroit on Thursday night getting a huge win over Green Bay, sweeping them, having that season series. That's going to be huge for the Lions. They've been on a roll. And even here in Cleveland, I'm seeing a lot of people in Lions gear. That wasn't the case a few years ago. A lot of people are starting to wear Detroit Lions gear here in Northeast Ohio. I mean, we've seen Pittsburgh Steelers gear come up here. We see... I'd say Pittsburgh Steelers probably secondary, but, the Cleveland Browns obviously run this city. But, the Detroit Lions gear is starting up here, and Detroit's not that far away from us either. So, I think that's a big thing. Detroit has become so likable with Dan Campbell. And there's some cuts out there from some media people that are actually really hitting Dan Campbell hard for his aggressive style of coaching. I think it's working out, and clearly the Detroit Lions know what they're doing. At the end of the day, when they went for it on that fourth down at the end of the game, it's either give the ball to a defense that wasn't getting the job done, because they let Green Bay have 31 points even though they still won the game. They still did. Let the defense, who isn't getting the job done, have an opportunity to stop Green Bay, or are you just going to get that first down and try to win the game right then and there? I think Dan Campbell was absolutely right making that decision. We have some other big games tomorrow. You look at Kansas City. You look at the LA Chargers. That's going to be huge. I think the Chargers could play spoilers a little bit, but the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Buffalo playing the Rams tomorrow. That will have some good implications. I think the Rams are going to end up winning the NFC West, but that's a tough matchup with the Buffalo Bills. But I wouldn't be surprised if the LA Rams end up winning that game. The Bills have a little bit of a tough stretch here. They got to play Detroit next week, and I believe that game is in Detroit. So that's going to be a hostile environment for them. But Buffalo, on paper, I think, is the better team compared to Detroit overall. But Detroit is so well coached, and they're so fun, and it's hard to root against the Detroit Lions. Even anybody could say that, in all honesty. And the other thing, too, is you look at the other game, Bengals-Cowboys on Monday Night Football. That's a wash. Those two teams are not going anywhere. But, the Bengals offense is still fun to watch, but it's a damn shame because there's no excuse for them losing right now. And the Cowboys are a mess. So what else to expect? But, you're looking at that wild card race right now. The NFC is really, I think the AFC is pretty solid. I think we know who the teams are going to be. I think the only team that may jump out to you is Miami, who play the Jets tomorrow. The Jets aren't going anywhere. Miami should win that game. But the Miami Dolphins are the only team that I really see that maybe could compete with the Denver Broncos for that last wild card spot, and the Indianapolis Colts. But the Jaguars are a mess with that hit to Trevor Lawrence, as we mentioned earlier on Raw Takes, of course, so we'll have to see. That's my thoughts on some of the sports highlights and news. Make sure to stay tuned for Raw Takes later this week. Special guest on the show Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Go Browns, and go for whatever one of your sports teams that you're rooting for. If you're not in Cleveland, that's not the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you on Raw Takes later this week. Thank you. This was Short Take Saturday.